So you mentioned that attorneys often aren't sure if they want to be a trial lawyer. They take some time, do some things. When was it that you figured out this is what I want to do and I can be good at it?
Sure. So the way it typically works is you try a case with you second chair a case. So your more senior partner will be the main trial lawyer and you will be the second chair. And second chair is super fun because you don't really have to like do the hard stuff where you question witnesses. You just come and make sure all the exhibits are there, but you get to sit there at the table and watch everything happen. So I was trying a case with my boss. I don't think I was a partner yet. And it was in Jefferson County. In the week, I'll give you the 2-second cliff notes on the facts of this case, but this is where you become an expert in everything you do depending on what the case is about. This case, I represented a company that was a concrete pumping company. So they have a truck and a pump, and what they do is they show up at job sites and they pump the concrete from the truck, like say you're going to put a patio in the back, and they don't want to drive the concrete truck back. So they don't bring the concrete. They're literally a pumping company, and it's a particular thing, and it's these pressurized pumps that pushes the concrete through, and someone has to be at the other end to like lay the concrete. So these people were pouring a basement, and they decided they were going to do the concrete work themselves. My client shows up. He's one guy. He's just the pump. So they have their 21-year-old son moving the concrete around, and he moves the hose, and it kinks, and so when the concrete comes through, it flips back and breaks this kid's arm and his elbow. So they sue the concrete company. So we're in trial on this case, and our position in the case was you should have had people who knew what they were doing running the concrete as it came out of the pump. Their position is that the pump should never kink, in long and short. So the week before the trial, there is a witness that I realized we didn't depose. So I went and took this kid's deposition, and he was a friend of the 21-year-olds who was there helping with the pumping situation. And what he told me in his deposition was that essentially the kid was being careless and not doing what he was supposed to do. And so then we go to trial, and I see the kid in the hallway. And typically, because this case was in Jefferson County and these people were from Illinois, you wouldn't have witnesses come in live from another state. I mean, you can't subpoena them to do that. So I'm thinking, why is this kid here? So I told my boss, that kid I deposed last week is here. And he goes, well, go ask him what he's going to say. And I'm like, he's friends with the plaintiff. He's not going to talk to me. So I go up to him and I said, are you going to change your story from last week? And the kid says, well, I misremembered what happened. And I thought, oh, great. So I went and told my boss, I said, he's going to change his story. And he goes, well, you better get ready. You're cross-examining him. I went, what? And so this was at the lunch break, and that kid was going on right after lunch. So keep in mind, I've never not only tried my own case, but I've never even crossed a witness in trial, and I'm about to do so in front of my boss with no time to prepare. So it was a great situation. So while the kid was on the stand doing his direct exam, he did change all of his testimony. So I made some notes, and I get up and I cross-examine this kid, and I'm so into it. I have all of the testimony up, how he's changed his story, how the mom asked him to come, and all of these things. And I'm just walking around asking question after question. I'm getting great answers. I mean, this kid looks like a liar. I turn around, the kid is totally crying. I drove the kid to tears. And so I walk back to the counsel table where my boss is sitting, and he goes, ask him if he thinks it's all his fault. And I'm like, oh, that's a good question. I go, are you upset because you actually think this whole thing is your fault? And he couldn't answer, and he kept bawling. And I just said, and then my boss goes, sit down. And I go, I don't have any further questions. And I sat down, and I was like, oh my God, I crushed that. I can't believe it. And so we ended up winning the case. But the takeaway was my boss left the trial, and he called Brad Hansmann, one of my partners, and he said, she's ready. She's ready. She crossed this kid, and she drove him to tears and didn't even know it. So